So if you're an artist like me, I'm sure you've struggled with creativity and looked to your inspirations on how can I find a way forward. It's funny because your inspirations, my inspirations, our inspirations, the path that they took to get to where they are is almost 100% like going to be wildly different from the path that we have to take to sort of move forward with our art. When it comes to artists that I've seen myself, on the internet, I followed their stories or been with their journey for a long time, and through the observation of all those things, I've sort of realized that there's a relationship between technical skill and mental sanity, or mental stability, I should say. As an artist, I think both of those sort of have to have their own place, and they have to have a sort of bridge in order for somebody's best work to really be channeled. These things are really important because I feel like a lot of artists, when they start to get successful and they start to pick up speed, a lot of them hear the comments of, oh, I liked your old stuff better, I like the OG you better, your work just not the same as it used to be. I've met people who have heard this stuff. I've seen it countless amount of times online. I'm sure you have too. And I think what's being underestimated a lot of the time is that these artists, as human beings, have to reckon with the amount of change that success brings into their lives on a daily basis. So for example, if you're a producer who hasn't really gotten your name out yet, nobody really knows you, it's hard not being recognized for your work. It's hard not being at the level to where you can actually have a career out of doing what you love or doing your art. But at the same time, it's almost predictable. When you put something out, the probability that nobody's going to watch it is pretty damn high. When you make some kind of content, the probability that nobody's going to care is pretty high. When you try to do something a little bit more experimental, the probability that no one's going to be even able to tell is pretty high. So you're pretty much throwing stuff at a brick wall and seeing what sticks. And that in itself, I think, is pretty predictable, right? And some stuff may land better than others, but that's as you move along. Whereas compared to someone who's very successful doing their art, every piece that they put out, or every piece of work that they put out, every piece of content that they make is going to be watched by a very large audience and commented on, viewed, reviewed, criticized, even complimented. There's going to be fans, there's going to be haters, and every day it's going to be hard to adjust to. The human brain cannot comprehend that like 100,000 people have watched my video or 100,000 people have listened to my song, right? It's like you can't even imagine a room full of 100,000 people. Like, how are you going to imagine 100,000 people have listened to your song or have seen your face, or et cetera, et cetera. And also, not to mention the financial success that comes with it and the effect that it has on their life as well. A lot of people say, I won't let the money get to me, or I won't let the money affect me, or whatever. It's like, that's cool that you have that mission, but reality seems to be really different from what I can tell. Their lifestyle changes drastically, even if they don't introduce anything new into their life. The amount of subconscious pull that money has on you changes entirely, right? So like, you don't have to worry about your bills as much. Suddenly your money becomes like something people come to you for. It becomes a liability sometimes. There's just so many different things that change your life, like your life. Because I always think of it, whereas you can live and not make music, but you can't make music and not live. So in other words, if you're not alive, you can't make music. Life is like that big foundation base, and then music comes on top of it. If something touches this base underneath, then the music is going to be affected by it no matter what. And I think people who put out their best work, despite their life being crazy and unpredictable and extraordinarily unimaginable, I think that's in spite of those circumstances rather than because of those circumstances. I think it also comes down to how much art can be a high priority for someone in their life. Like if they have a whole bunch of stuff that matters more to them than their art, then their art is going to suffer. And that's not to say that that's like bad to do as an artist. It's just sometimes that things are just more like demanding of your attention than your art. And that especially becomes true when, you start to become financially stable and you start to have, some wealth and things like that, where music, your art, was basically sort of married to your job. So you had to do your art in order to make a living, in order to pay the bills and things like that. But when your bills are paid and you have some money, extra money, suddenly you don't have to be dependent on your art in order for you to be financially stable. And then all the other stuff in life catches up, where you have your mental health, unresolved issues, trauma, you have personal relationships with other people, you have to deal with all the change that happens after you've gotten successful and people know your name and people know you're famous and people know you're rich, people know who you are, people make snap judgments about you all the time, and you have like a crazy amount of exposure on the internet, and all that stuff catches up, and when people just have to deal with stuff just to keep their sanity, it's no wonder that their art gets sort of pushed on the back burner. And I think it's really hard to struggle against that, because then it becomes a sort of thing where the problems they have as a human being become greater than the problems they have of trying to make a really good song. And this can be in spite of their technical skill. So even their track records, like, take a look at Kanye, for example. His track record and what he's done is incredible. It's amazing. He's got a ridiculous discography, right? But there's a reason why people say that old Kanye this and old Kanye that. Because Kanye just isn't what he used to be, right? The things that he said, the things that he did, and just his music, I think, has suffered the most out of everything. It's just not the same. And maybe you have a personal opinion about that, but from what I've read online, I think a lot of people have a similar take where, Kanye just isn't the old Kanye. And it's not even just him. When you take a look at other artists who have gotten successful, it doesn't even take like a ridiculous amount of success. It could just be like some amount of commercial success. And that's enough to really change a person and F with like their pattern and the things that they have to deal with and worry about. And sometimes people are ill-equipped to deal with change and ill-equipped to deal with certain types of change that maybe they never would have encountered if they just lived a normal, regular life. I think there's a lot of unique challenges and a lot of unique problems that you acquire when you become a public figure or when you become really well known for your art. The change is inevitable because the person changes. Art comes from a person, and if the person changes, then the art changes, because the art just sits on top of the person. Yeah, so I guess if there's a takeaway from this, I think as artists, it's really hard to underestimate the amount of influence that mental health, general well-being, financial stability, the effect that those things have on our art. And sometimes we try to separate it out, where it's like, yeah, that's the stuff I deal with as like the person me, but then my art is like my art. It's like my space, And a lot of people say it's like, my special space where I could just be like the real me. And like, I get that, I've been there. I still struggle with it, right? And, I'm right there with you, but there are a bunch of factors that sort of allow for you to focus on making the art as great as possible and on nothing else, as compared to just doing with sheer willpower. And even when you're fighting that with willpower, then you've got two different things in your mind already, where, one is like you're trying to make the music great, but then also you're trying to resist against all of the other things that sort of try to pop into your head. And yes, I'm not saying it's impossible to make great art with that going on, but it puts a chokehold on your momentum and your progress. And it can be really discouraging. I think it's the biggest reason why people want to quit. My point is that as artists, I think we really need to take care of ourselves as human beings in order for our art to be the greatest that it can be. Great as can be really it just means it's able to touch a lot of people emotionally. Like it's able to reach a lot of people emotionally and move their hearts, move their minds, right? It's sort of like a love letter, expression of gratitude for what it means to be alive, for what it means to be a human being. All of the amount of thanks and gratitude that you've had just being alive as a human being and be able to experience the things that you've experienced. I think that's like one of the greatest things you can do as an artist, is to spread the beauty of art and all the things that you've experienced and all the things that you've inspired, and just share that with more people. It feels good just to be a part of that, you know? To be able to share the things that you love and the things that you think that are like, oh my God, this is it. This is like, this is the feeling, you know, this is what hits, right? This is like, you know, enthusiasm and just energy with as many people as possible. And to see that effect where people also are also enjoying the same things that you enjoy and the things that you love and the things that you think are great about the world. I think that's the most beautiful thing you can do as an artist. But in order to get there, like, you need to have your shit in order, right? As a person, as a human being, yeah, it's tough, right? It's not easy. And I'm pretty sure that this also applies to other occupations as well. Really what you're doing is providing a service for other people, right? Whatever kind of service that may be. As artists, we do it through art. Sometimes you may design buildings, you may build the buildings, you may, you know, make food, you may take care of children, you know, there's all the other occupations out there. What I've really come to appreciate is that, you know, we're all trying to be of service to each other and make life better for each other. I think that's really beautiful. And yeah, I think that's just been something I've been feeling lately. Something I've seen common in a bunch of people that I talk to, not just in the same profession and, you know, other professions. So yeah, wanted to share that with y'all. Let me know what you think. And yeah, take care of yourself out there, and let's keep making great art. See ya.